So our problem currently is that we have no sweets in the house because I have not made anything sweet in a while. Forgive my hair, I'm a mess. I've been cleaning all day. I actually tried to make some content earlier and according to my phone, nothing saved. So we're gonna go ahead and make this video, and we're actually gonna make something sweet. Now this is something I've heard about like all my life, especially growing up in the South, is Duke's Mayo chocolate cake. I'm a little bit nervous, never made it before, but we're gonna go ahead and give it a shot, especially because I don't have any eggs currently. I need to go get some from my husband's grandparents. So we're gonna go ahead and try it with the Dukes. We'll see what happens. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to mix the Duke's Mayo and water in the mixing bowl until it's nice and incorporated. Now I'm supposed to have vanilla extract, but I keep forgetting to get it every time I go to the store. So we're just gonna kind of wing it right now. We're just gonna go for it. So we're looking for 1.5 cups of Duke's Mayo. I'm a little pampered chef guy. Love this thing. My husband hates it, but it's my favorite. Now I don't mind mayo. I'll eat it in certain things, but like in large quantities like this, it kind of grosses me out, to be honest. I don't know why, it just does. I want to make my own mayo. I have not ever done that before. I've heard it's super simple, and then you can add like your own seasonings and things to it. I thought that would be pretty good. One of these days I'll make it. Maybe I'll make a video when I do. It's a lot of mayo. I hope this is good. I'm nervous, especially with how much mayo they're having me put in here. But I'm going to show you something super cool with this measuring cup. If you don't have one, you need to find somebody who sells Pampered Chef and get it, because best thing ever. I remember the first Pampered Chef party thing that I did as an adult. I had to get this, and I had to get the measuring spoon. So there's a measuring spoon that can slide up and down, and it has different measurements on it. Had to order it right away. My mom had them when I was a kid growing up, and I just needed them. Alright, that should be good. Now, the best part of this measuring cup is that you just push it up and all of it comes out. And it gets every last bit, just like so. Then all I have to do is just scrape off the top a little bit. Just like that. And probably just drop it on that little whisk guy. Boom, all of it's out. Now I need my water. So that was 1.5 cups of mayo. Now I need 1.5 cups of water. So all I do is flip this upside down. My liquid measurements are on the other side. And it does specify cold water, so we're going to make sure it's cold. Alright, so we got our 1.5 cups of cold water. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on to mix while I kind of wash this off, because I'm going to need it for more dry measurements. So we're going to drop you down, lock you in place. We'll put that on stir and let it sit while I go wash this out. Alright, so this seems to be pretty well incorporated, as you can see. So we're going to go ahead and turn this off and start adding in our dry ingredients. Now, I will tell you that the recipe, now this recipe is straight from Duke's website, but the recipe did say for me to go through and sift all of the dry ingredients. I don't have a sifter, so we're just gonna add them in. I'm sure it'll be fine. The sifting normally just adds a little bit more air to it, so it might not be as airy as we want it to be, but I'm sure it'll still be good. So let's go ahead and start adding all of our dry ingredients in. We'll need 1.5 cups of sugar. So there's our cup and a half of sugar. Let me lift this back up. Boom. Alrighty, so the rest are going to be smaller measurements. So for starters, I need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The smallest this goes is the teaspoon. Let me see if I have something else. 1/8 of a teaspoon. This one. Here we go. This one's a 1/4 teaspoon. I have a couple of different like random sets, and it's only a couple pieces from each one. It can't be the only one. Alright, so there's our 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now I need a tablespoon of baking soda. I do have that measurement. I always want to make sure that I have the right one. It says baking soda, because I will grab the wrong one. It's just who I am as a person. Boom. Get a little more for good measure because it wasn't completely full. Okay. And then we need, so we've got sugar, we got salt, we got baking soda. Now we need 6 tablespoons of unsweet cocoa powder. Got my fancy Aldi brand cocoa powder over here. Three, 4, 5, and last but not least is number 6. Just kind of dust my fingers off in there. Okay, put that in the sink. And now we need our flour. So this is supposed to be 3 cups of flour. So coming right to here is going to be 2 cups, and then we get one more after this. I wish it was measured in grams, but this is what we got going on right now. We got cups, so I'm sure it'll be fine. We can always add more if we need to. And this is all-purpose flour, by the way. It called for all-purpose. I know you can get like cake flour and stuff, but every recipe I've ever used always calls for just all-purpose flour. I'm not really sure what the difference is. Well, I got my all-purpose flour out. I am going to have to go ahead and feed my starter, so maybe I can bake later. There we go. So there is 2 cups. Okay. We need one more. 1 cup. And this recipe does also have a separate recipe for the frosting. We'll have to see how that turns out. I don't know if I have all the ingredients for it, so I'll have to look and see. A little bit more. Alright. So we'll put this in here. Perfect. We'll drop you back down. Lock it in place, and we're going to go ahead and mix this until it's nice and blended. I am going to preheat my oven to 350 while we're doing that, so it will be ready to go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and then we'll be back in just a second. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and give it a little pause. I'm going to scrape these sides down. It is looking very liquidy, in my opinion, for a cake batter. So we may add a little bit more flour. We'll see. It's one of those things I like to tell people that once you've been baking for a little bit, a lot of times you can just tell if the consistency is off. You can tell if you need to add a little bit more flour. You can tell if you need to add a little bit more liquid. But it just takes some practice to be able to know that, because the reality is baking is quite a science. And honestly, a lot of it is not going to be exact and perfect, because everything is going to be based on the temperature in your home, the temperature outside, how humid it is, all of these things. So you just kind of have to play with your recipes sometimes to be able to get them exactly what you want. So I'm going to let this mix for a little bit longer, and I'm going to go ahead and add in probably about 2 more tablespoons of flour just to see what happens there. Alright, so we got a little bit thicker of a consistency going here, which is great, but we want it just slightly bit thicker. And also, this recipe being measured in cups and being sifted, things are a little bit different there too on our measurement. So there's just a lot of things at work here. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a tiny bit more of my flour. And we should be good to go on that front. At that point, we're just going to bake it. So that fell. So let's go ahead and get this mixed up the rest of the way. I'll drop you down, lock you, and mix. Alright, so we went ahead and got some parchment paper to line the bottoms. I am still going to spray this whole thing so it doesn't stick. Make sure you spray the sides. Make sure that whole thing comes out. Sometimes I feel like I go a little overboard with these, but I really don't want my stuff to stick. So let's get this guy off. Tastes like chocolate cake. Alright, so let's go ahead and pour it in. We'll try to split it evenly. I think these are 8-inch, but they might be 9-inch. I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me grab my spatula. Grabbing it weird here, so it's kind of being difficult for me. Alright, I think I got them pretty even. I don't know. I always try to. One always inevitably ends up bigger than the others. But my oven is overheated now. So the recipe says we need to bake this for 30 minutes. So I'm going to put it in for about 25 and take a peek at it just in case. And we'll go ahead and see how it's looking at that point. Alright, so it looks like our cakes are done. I just went ahead and didn't have any toothpicks, but I stuck my thermometer in there to see if it came out clean, and it did. They are looking beautiful. Go ahead and pull these out. There's one. And number 2 smells like brownies in the house, honestly. So I'm hoping that they taste good. They got a good little spring to them. So I'm hoping they'll be nice and airy, even though I didn't sift everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit and cool for a few minutes in the pans themselves, and then I'm going to flip them out onto my cooling rack so that we can let them cool a whole lot better, and we can go ahead and start making our frosting for them. Alright, so these are cooled off enough for me to flip them out, so I'm going to peel my parchment on each of them. So this one came out really easily, really pretty, really nice. This one did break when I was trying to flip it, but that's okay. We'll put him on top and use some icing to kind of put it together. But so far so good. I did try the little bits that had fallen, and it is tasting amazing.